I have officially been on YouTube for 10 years. Actually, it's been a bit longer than that. I joined in January of 2007, but I deleted the first few videos because it was just for family and friends at the time. For those of you who don't know, I was hit by a drunk driver, my kids and I were severely injured, and my wife was killed, and I was giving everyone updates from my hospital bed as to how we were doing. So, since those few were just for family and friends, I ended up deleting them. The earliest video that's still there dates to February 20th, exactly 10 years ago. But if you watch it, you can tell I'm complaining about how buggy YouTube was at the time, so obviously that wasn't my first actual video. I did leave up one update, so you can see how my kids were when they were that much younger, and you can also see a picture of how Joey looked, and so I thought I would kind of leave that up there for prosperity. But the one I'm going to stick at the end of this video to commemorate the decennial is the third one that's still up, and it's interesting to look back and see how easy it is to debunk a lot of these lies that my detractors have been telling about me for years. To hear them telling it, I started out as a good skeptic and I made great skeptical YouTube videos and I was perfectly rational, but then I turned to politics and went crazy, and the one definitely happened before the other. Except, as this video shows, it didn't, because it's the first video I made as a part of the general conversation of YouTubers, and it's political. And I think you'll find that I was pretty much the same libertarian then as I am now, so maybe you can be a good skeptic and still be a libertarian. Not that they'll admit that, but of course that's because they throw their skepticism away every time they go into the realm of politics, so there you are. So, this video is from back in the days when you could do proper video responses, and you could actually look at a video and under that it would show you all of the video responses people made. Yeah, I miss those. It's in response to a couple of YouTubers, and one of them was Mooey Poo. I really liked her videos. I even got to meet her in real life, and I'm still friends with her on Facebook, but sadly she hasn't done videos in 8 years. But anyway, this is a video about gay rights, and I go into rights theory, income tax, licensing, and I even mention Downsize DC's Read the Bills Act. Yes, it's been around that long, so check out the janky, low-resolution me of 2007, and here's to another 10 years.
Hello, this is Shane. I've been following the exchange between Moo and New York Minute about the gay issue, because I'm subscribed to Moo's videos and I'm a big fan of those, and I pretty much agree with just about everything she says, but I initially wasn't going to weigh in on this because I'm not gay and I don't really understand what you're coming from with that, but in the last couple of videos there were a couple of things said that I'd like to respond to, because they don't just apply to the gay community, they apply to everyone. The first was in the video previous to the one I'm responding to, Moo's video, where she said that we're human beings and we deserve our rights. And then in the next one, New York Minute, where she talks about things like the fact that Bush is in office, the fact that the government can get our library records, things like that. First of all, there's the idea of that we deserve our rights, and she was saying that they deserve the rights because, not because they're gay, but because they're human beings, and she's absolutely right about that. Moo, I hope you're watching this. You're absolutely right about that. It's the word deserve that kind of makes me a little unsettled, because if you say you deserve something, that at least implies that there's someone else out there who should give it to you. And that's not the case. You have rights not because someone else out there should give it to you, but it's because you have the right. You're a human being. No one can give you your rights. No one can take them away. The way you have your rights is by not fighting for them, but assuming them and keeping them going in your life. And yes, fighting when they're oppressed, but no one can truly take away your rights. They can just use force to try to oppress you, or use the government, which is really just another way of using force, because that's what the government is. The government is force. And that kind of goes along with what New York Minute was saying about the library records. That happened because of a provision in the USA Patriot Act, which, by the way, Congress passed without even reading. And if that makes you upset, well, that's far from the only one. I write my congressman quite a bit, and I just got a response from him a couple weeks ago on another matter. And he was talking about, yeah, there was this provision in there that we didn't know about when we voted on it. And there was another one I read about in the news. I think it was Dianne Feinstein was talking about something that was, well, we didn't know that was in there when we voted on it. Well, why didn't you know about it? Didn't you read it? Well, no, they don't read it. And that is something that should outrage every American. And there's actually a group called DownsizeDC.org that has a Read the Bills Act. I'm going to put a link to it over there on that site somewhere. So that you can actually go and see that, and they actually have a thing where you can write your congressman and force members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, to read the bills that they pass, and that's a big one. But there's another issue too. New York Minute, you were talking about the tax thing and how you don't get your tax break if you have scenes in a movie that they don't like. Well, there's all sorts of things like that that the government does, just in every aspect of our life. The problem is not that they're doing these things, it's that they can do these things. And that's the problem. We didn't have an income tax until 1913. If we didn't have an income tax today, the government wouldn't be able to do these things. People talk about the gay marriage issue. Well, George and Martha Washington didn't have a marriage license. We didn't have marriage licenses in this country until the 19th century, and that was to stop free blacks from marrying whites. So instead of saying, gays should have the right to marry, meaning that they should have the right to get a marriage license from the government, say, what is the government doing licensing marriages to begin with? If the government didn't have anything to do with that, then, it would just be up to a local church or community or whatever. You could get together, you could make your vows and do whatever. If it weren't for the income tax, you wouldn't have to worry about filing jointly or whatever. The problem is not the abuse of power. It's the power to abuse. In New York, you were saying, how terrible it is that George W. Bush got elected. Well, the way this country was originally set up, it shouldn't matter who's elected, because the government shouldn't have the power to do anything to be able to oppress us anyway. It's the fact that we've given them that power. We've given them the power of income tax. We've given them the power of marriage licensing, and that's what's causing the big problems, and that's what we need to take away. Go look around the internet. There's a lot of things that our government is doing right now that is just scary. And instead of finding all these little things one at a time, what we need to do is we need to take away the power that they're not supposed to have. If they were forced to obey the Constitution, they wouldn't be able to do these things to begin with. So I just wanted to inject that issue in there and maybe give you something new to think about, maybe a different approach to this. That's really all I have to say. I love the discussion. I'm learning a lot about it, but I just wanted to interject those issues because I think they're really important and they apply to everyone. Hopefully I've given you a little something new to think about. You've certainly given me something to think about, and I'm really looking forward to more of this discussion. Thank you both.